All right, we're going to be going live and just getting ready to go live shortly. We got Andrea and Ron and Tim who are hanging out with me so far. I've got the audio changed a little bit, but not where I would like it to be. I really got to do something about the noise. There's got to be something better, and it might be. Oh, good. Looks like it sounds all right over there. I can hear myself. Here, thought I'd be late as usual, but no, woohoo, says Andrea Boyle. Okay, I'm not till June. Yeah, right on, Ron. Ron, which one were you again? Which one were you on again, Ron? Ron, as I've been learning Spanish, I have been rolling my R's a little bit more. Hey, Dave's here. Welcome in. Howdy, Aaron and chat. I didn't send this email out to everyone on the list to say, hey, come join me live tonight. And so I wonder if I'll have a smaller crowd. But no worries. We are talking about the winners of the February contest. And then I'll be announcing the March one. Man, I really got to do something with June Escalante. Oh, okay, cool. Right on. Teresa made it. Welcome in. I am technically live, but I won't be live. Oh, wait. The timer has set. Okay, there's a 6-minute one. Let's just do the 6-minute one. And it's 5:55. We'll start a little early. I'll switch over, but at least that timer will give those a reminder. Oh, you know what? I want to turn off that lamp. I don't need that lamp on. It draws a lot of attention over there to that side of the room, and I don't need that. Jerry Thompson, I'm here. Hello. Didn't get the email today. Specifically about the email. Yeah, I didn't send it because I didn't want to overwhelm people with last-minute emails. I like to send it the day before, but lately I've been sending them on the same day anyway. But I was curious how well it would go without the email. So maybe I should make sure I always do that email every Tuesday. I really have some important things coming up on the email that I want everyone to stay in the email chain for. And if they get bored of the spam or annoyed, then they might not hang out with me and see it. Shared twice, my dude. Yes, you're the man, Justin. I'm looking over here at my Carson Lumi loops, the one that I'm sending to Justin. I just got to get the carving into it. I haven't heard from Matej. Matej may exist or may not. Matej, if you're there, you won January, but I have not heard from you. And if you sent an email and I didn't see it, hook me up again. I don't know if I ever get emails. I just pop in. Tim's cool with that. Chris Whiting's here. Chris, I sent you a reply. Oh no, that was Woodruff. Yeah, I gotta get him straight. Too many Chris's. Well, not too many. Not enough. Let's get some more Chris's in here. Woohoo! I would come, but for the first day, probably show up the day before. Okay, cool. Sweet. I will ask them. All right. Sweet. Better turn my phone on silent. I never get emails. Chris, are you even in my email chain, our email list? Guppy Guy from Boise. I haven't seen you in a while, man. Welcome in. Chris probably does get the emails if he's on my list, or maybe he's blocked me for spam reasons, which I understand. I'm not offended. Reflector. Let me open up that. Got to share my iPad today because I'll be drawing and gushing over people's captures that they have sent me for the March challenge. To be honest, I haven't thought about what it would be. Not a Chris, but a Kathy's here. Kathy, you're the only Kathy that's ever been here, so it's all yours. You dominate that name. Let's share that with the computer. I've tried several times actually to get on the list. I haven't set up an easier way to make you get on the list. I've said that for 2 years that I was going to do that, make it an easy way to pop up on my list where you go to photuckadventures.com, but I haven't done the work. I haven't gotten emails lately. Oh, Bob, you should have gotten one today. I hooked you up with maybe that's still in the pending one. There is a pending email for all the Milky Way primers that are getting it. So you get 2 emails from me tonight, Bob. You're going to be annoyed by me tonight because you'll hear a lot from me. I have a pretty great story for my submission. Oh, really, Justin? Okay, get ready to hook me up with that because I'm excited about it. The Milky Way is rising and also not a Chris. Tonight's theme is going to be, is your name Chris? And if not, you're not good enough. You must be a Chris. Let me double check what's going on over here. I think the audio is satisfactory. I'm going to minimize this, and this is not going to have triple audio. Hopefully not. And we're good. No. Bob's like, I don't want more emails. Oh, you will. You will get some emails. I'm hooking you up with other courses that you may not have, Bob, but I think you have most of them. So if not, you're going to be getting the email that teaches you how to get into them for the primer, as well as a March setup. Tim, not a Chris, LOL. All right, I'm going to put my shoes off to the side. I'm going to hook you up. Can I message you it on Facebook? Sure. I haven't loaded it up, but I'll load up Facebook while I introduce you guys to this next video, and then we'll go live here in 2 minutes. So just Facebook's fine, man. Hook me up. I'll talk to you there. My Carson Lumi loop. Definitely don't want to forget this. Focus can kill my Milky Way shot. But what else am I forgetting? What other things do I need to do before I go out and do Milky Way photography? Hang with me and I'll give you my first 3 out of 10 things you should do before Milky Way photography. Number 1, the first thing you should know is the moon and the Milky Way. There are options inside apps like photo pills to quickly know and understand the moon and the Milky Way. All right, the moon is going to set for me and the Milky Way shows up, and the Milky Way is visible from 328 all the way to 532, and that is my window of opportunity to see the Milky Way without a moon in my way. One really great feature on another app that I love is Planet Pro right here. By simply going up to the 3 lines at the top left, you go down to the calendar option. Down below me, there's one with the moon and stars and one with this spiral. And that spiral is the Milky Way. So my moon window of opportunity on the 28th is less than 2 hours, but it is there. And I can see quickly on the calendar above me which nights were good. This is the best quick tool to find out whether it's a good night for Milky Way. Know the moon and know the Milky Way. Find a dark sky location. Lightpollutionmap.info is not an app, it's a website. Know where the light pollution is and work around it. Number 3 is, will there be clouds? Being that I'm here in the United States, my favorite option is cleardarksky.com. But say I wanted to go to Bryce Canyon National Park on Tuesday. Not good. On the cloud cover line right there, blue is good, white is bad, and we're not getting any blue squares until Thursday. This is the kind of information that you need to have before you go. These are the first 3 of the tips that you should know before you go and do Milky Way photography. This is part of my PDF that has 10 tips on here, 10 things that you need to think about, know about your camera, know about the conditions before you go and capture your Milky Way. Check out the link right here and you can click and get this PDF. Give me your email and I will email you this PDF so you have this tip sheet with you. So when you're out on location, you can remind yourself, yeah, I need to make sure I do these 10 things before I go out for Milky Way photography. Let's do this. Let's get into it. Hey, it's Milky Way Wednesday. We are back and excited to get into some more Milky Way Wednesday. I should be here for the next several weeks straight. What is it that I have? I'm here on the 8th, I'm on the 15th, and I'm gone on the 22nd. Oh, man. So I have the 15th and the 8th only, gone on the 22nd for a workshop, but back on the 29th. So we have 3 more Milky Way Wednesdays this month, and I'll be here for 2 weeks in a row. So welcome in, everybody. Hey, I'm Aaron King with Photog Adventures, and this is Milky Way Wednesday, the 1-hour hangout live stream where I chat to everyone in the chat, and I get distracted by squirrel, and we teach Milky Way photography and nerd out on others' Milky Way photography. And tonight is going to be the night where I just nerd out on your work. Clear Dark Sky told me it was okay to go to Joshua Tree last Saturday. And then what happened, Chris? Because, man, the last week I've had some predictions that went well, and then they changed very quickly as weather pattern just, there's a new weather pattern every day. We got pulled out of Death Valley early from the workshop because it was heinous weather, and we had 1 night out of 4 that didn't have a problem with clouds. So here we are, we're getting started. I want to remind everybody about the chat. If you have any questions for me that you want to interrupt, hit me up with an all caps question so that I can see it over here, as well as right now, I know, Justin, you're going to hook me up with a message. I'm on Aaron King and on Photog Adventures. Let me know which one you message on Facebook so I can open them up, because now they're isolated and I got to separate them. So Kathy says, I've been getting rain from those storms, but tomorrow we may actually get 6 inches of snow in Chicago. Oh my gosh. Dang. No snow for me, for Ron, but I do have 10 miles of thick clouds. Oh gosh. That's why some of us aren't seeing the planetary conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn, right? Jupiter and Saturn tonight, if I'm correct. Let's go and check out. Let's do this together. Why not? Let's enjoy this. Let me pull my iPad over to the left, and let's look at my favorite sky guide. If you have an iOS device, you can join me here. And tonight we have a conjunction between Jupiter and, I thought, Saturn, but I may be mistaken. Let's go forward in time. Ba-bum-bum. Where are you, Jupiter and Saturn? There goes Andromeda Galaxy. Mars is right there. Sirius. Oh man, is it going to be later in the night? Man, I can't even remember where it's showing up right now. Jupiter. It's under the horizon, right? And if you were... is it Venus? If it's that late or early in the night, then it had to be Venus, and it was. I thought it couldn't possibly be Venus that we have it with. But, yep, that conjunction is happening in the middle of the day, but I couldn't have seen it myself. The sun hadn't even set yet. So right after sunset, those of you who were already out would have enjoyed it. In fact, the time right now, it's on my horizon at 8:05. Wait, 8:05? Where does it think I am right now? What's my location? Let's do my location. Oh, I'm in Mexico. Interesting. Let's go automatic. Bring my location up. So as of right now, it's still in the night sky. And during our Milky Way Wednesday, it's going to set. So if you have a clear, cloud-free sky, capture the conjunction. 2 giant, very bright lights in the sky. I mean, Venus and Jupiter, they're intense. Venus is always intense. What's it set up right now? Is it, it's a waxing gibbous. Check out that. It's a really big Venus right now. So the magnitude is very bright. How's Jupiter? Massive. Massively bright. All right, cool. We don't even get phases with Jupiter because it's always far away from us. That is about right. Setting soon, he says. Tim says. Cool. So if you're going to be here all the way until 8 p.m., depending on your location, you might have a chance still to get out there right after. So get ready to go. I thought Venus and Jupiter. Yeah, Andrea was correcting me. I thought it couldn't possibly be Venus because Venus is setting so fast after the sunset, but that's where Jupiter is right now. I have not paid attention to Jupiter in a long time because when I'm out there at night, it is long gone, and I'm not using it for anything. And when does Jupiter rise again? It won't rise until morning, and I don't even see it. I don't think it will. Oh, there we go. Mercury, Saturn. Oh, there's a conjunction of Mercury and Saturn in the morning. That's nice. So if you can actually get anything in the twilight period, you'll see Saturn and Mercury in another conjunction. Right on. Awesome. That's tomorrow morning, March 2nd. So welcome to March, everybody. It's rent is due, and we are getting into our Milky Way Wednesday, and we're going to celebrate some really awesome images and hopefully encourage you all. Oh, your personal one, Justin says. Okay, sweet. And I do see it. Fantastic. We're going to enjoy some Milky Way photography and encourage hopefully more of you to have more success going forward because, yeah, I know that the skies have been brutal, and so it's been hard to fully appreciate. And, why don't you go maximize? Please, maximize. Open in Messenger. All right, here we go. Cool. Now I got a big screen of Justin's message because he's one of the submitted images. In fact, let me show everybody. Here's our February contestants. Now, this was the example one, which was a Neil Zingle image. We have Faster, Justin Miller, Chris Whiting, and Chris Whiting. We only have really 3 contenders for our best of this month because we've only had 5 images submitted, and 3 of you are the same person. We had 2 images. Now, typically, I do not accept 2 images. I only want 1. So just send me your best one. But with this month being so weak, with not very many people having the clear enough skies to get an image out, I know it's going to get more and more easy to have more submissions by the summertime. But this is going to be our group, and I'll let these 2 images work. And we'll see if Faster can take it or Chris can take it with their double attempts at getting the victory. But then Justin Miller puts in a pretty good contender for it. So this month, I want to remind everybody that the goal was a panorama and that we wanted to make sure you had light. So the light could be light pollution. It could be your headlamp. It could be the stars reflecting light in a pool of water, a reflection. Anything that includes a panorama and light. So have fun with it and be creative. Steel wool. We pretty much have light pollution and low-level lighting that was used, and the moon in Faster's second image. So we're going to go through these images, and we'll talk about our March Milky Way Photo Challenge, which honestly, help me out, everybody in the chat, because I know I want to celebrate a panorama. But what would you all think is a fair connection to that panorama that's going to be worthwhile to consider our challenge? I don't want it to be something that only is possible here in Utah. I want it to be something that... I just saw Tim's message. For those of us who actually have heard School of Rock, I saw it on replay as a kid. I never saw it when it was originally out. But conjunction, junction, what's your function is definitely something that's in my head whenever I hear the word conjunction. So I'm with Tim on that one. Looking at it right now from the front yard, Chris Whiting's enjoying it right now. Awesome. I thought the other Chris made an entry. Nope, did I say Whiting? It was Woodruff. No, it's Whiting. Both of these are Chris Whitings. Chris Whiting image and Chris Whiting image. Yeah, yep, they're both you. So I have that. All right, so help me out with, I did, LOL, he says. Maybe you only posted in the guild. Chris, submit it to the page because I only see these images right here. And wait, there's a new one. There's a Chris Woodruff right here. Haha. Sweet. All right, there's another contender. Looks like I need to pull this one down and get this one saved over to my iPad. So I'm going to get that downloaded and get that set up. So in the background. So first off, we're going to start talking about this Milky Way. Those of you who have been paying attention to our winter Milky Way scenario, let me go ahead and just go into the chat and me talking. You know that this time of year, we actually have a winter Milky Way panorama in the early part of the night. And then if you wait until just before sunrise, you can do a summer Milky Way panel. We'll just call them simply winter and summer, even though it's still winter time, seeing that eastern Milky Way panorama come up. And what is happening here is that first, okay, let me just get my head straight on pulling Chris's picture over. And then make sure I do a copy over here. Perfect. Sweet. And then I'm going to make sure I got it over here on my Dropbox folder while I'm talking. You know that winter Milky Way opportunity and summer Milky Way opportunity the same night is a long stretch. Hey, Ryan Luna's here. Welcome in. And that is a huge super chat. Wow, thank you so much, Ryan. That's massive support. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. And sorry, I edited out the light pollution so I don't have any light in mine, so it doesn't count. No, it does. There's a light bloom off on the horizon that's almost washing out your Andromeda. I can see there's light in there, and there's definitely light reflected in the water, Chris, so yours counts. Yours counts. It's not creative and special, but it definitely fits the standards. So thanks, Ryan. That's awesome support, man. I appreciate that. That's going to buy me a few dinners in a row. I love it. Thank you so much for your support. I still haven't hung out with Ryan out there in the LA area, but someday I will. And welcome in. So that chance of capturing both, it will require you to be out very late at night. You'll capture that first Milky Way early on in the night, and then you're going to wait until the Milky Way panel on the east side of you starts showing up, and that's going to be very early in the morning. So you're going to have to be really dedicated to capture both. But that opportunity is there. And I can't really make March that requirement because that's asking too much of everybody, but it is fun to see a winter Milky Way and a summer Milky Way in the same capture. And plus with the clouds, who knows how the clouds will treat you, and if you'll get that chance to have it be, safe. Where, come on, pull in that next image. I know you got this. somewhere in OBS and stuff. Let me make sure that folder is here. So I'm pulling in Chris's new picture. Oh, there we go. Now I've got it. Now I can export this baby and put it in my folder of pictures. Sweet. So when I'm thinking about the March one, the March Panorama allows you to get it at a higher point. The February one was nearly parallel with the horizon, and the March Panorama gives you a solid arch. So what would be a good fair challenge, as not all of you live in a Utah area where you can hang out at an awesome location like I'm going to be with my March workshop. I'm going to have these vistas, I'm going to have rocks, and the thing about a vista is that you're going to have a very dark foreground unless you capture it long exposure during the blue hour, depending on the subject. My subject of my favorite ever image was taken in March, and it had some reflective rock that's in the ultra close foreground, but then in the midground, that's all dark, distant, and wouldn't have very good clarity and be of any interest if it wasn't for a color change in the edge of rock, like the rock at the edge of this cliff that draws the footprint. That drew some interest out of a muddy, low exposure, not that great area of the image. And if it wasn't for that like dinosaur footprint extra canyon below the canyon, it wouldn't work. And when I captured the same kind of settings out at the Mars overlook, I didn't have as cool of an image, plus I was too high. So some things work really well condition-wise, just naturally, and some things you'll have to really force, work hard, do a blue hour shot, whatever it takes to get both in there. So when I'm thinking about Panorama Plus, there needs to be something plus. I want another Panorama, and I want it to have something else that you all from the chat think is fair for the Mars Challenge. So hit me up with some options, and we'll pick one before the end of the episode. Ryan, he says, glad to support and give a little of all the years of education and entertainment. So thanks, man. You know, one of the entertainments that Ryan in the past has laughed about, I'm pretty sure you were there live, was when I was doing a composition lesson up against a white wall, and I had an overlay of my iPad where I would draw lines on it, but they'd be visible around my head. And I was going back and forth, and doing like hula shapes and showing organic shapes is interesting. And I was kind of dancing a lot back and forth as I was doing that green screen action. And it was fun. Plano plus selfie. There's 2 votes for selfie plus reflection. I really love reflections. That may be too hard, but it also is possible if you just bring something reflective like a mirror, because I like that. Ooh, maybe I should get the option, selfie or reflection. Keep hitting me up with options. I'm loving both of those so far. Really, really loving them. Okay, let me get my panos ready here. I have everyone else's who submitted in here, but now I need to make sure I have the other Chris's so that I don't neglect him. Oh, that's the wrong black. Pulling that black, and then pulling this photo, and it is right there. Brilliant. Chris Woodruff, you put in a major contender for favorite here. It's going to be hard to see who can win this. Let's see what happens. Who knows? Who knows? Let's pull him in right there. That'll be good. Okay, well, let's get started on celebrating those who've already submitted, and let's talk about their images, starting with Faster out of Peru. Let's go over to my computer now. This is an image that I love, and there's no Milky Way visible. There's absolutely really nothing else going on except what is a lunar landscape. The moon is lighting up everything, and you have clarity on the mountains thanks to the moon, and it looks like daytime, and yet you're seeing, let's get off of this so I stop drawing. I just want it to be easy going. Normally, let's do this. As you have a fully lit foreground with the lunar landscape, you're getting the other benefit of actually having stars pop up. And that was something that Brendan and I realized for the first time out in Kolob Canyon, capturing with the moon. We ended up pulling into Kolob Canyon because we wanted to get a Milky Way shot. We kind of forgot when the moon was going to rise on us. And it had already risen, and it was lighting up everything. And we're like, well, I guess we can't see the Milky Way now. But the lunar landscape was quite terrific and quite interesting. How much clarity you got in the foreground but having stars, the blue sky and the stars. And this is what makes star trails work so well with the full moon or any moon, because you can still do star trails with those stars that are visible, but then you have a very cool view of your landscape. So if you had a very intricate foreground, complex, a lot of detail, you would pull all of it out with the moon and not miss out on it and have something that you have to low level light, or even worse, where you have to go into it and not see it. But it's there, but you're just not seeing it all that well. So when I'm looking at this, Faster reminds me of my first ever panorama that I got to work. And my first ever panorama, I was capturing it driving away from home, only about 10 minutes away from home, towards the mountains, away from the light pollution, and I captured something very similar to what Faster has right here. As you can see, I was new to my panorama. I couldn't get my focus on the stars. I barely beat it before Astro Twilight ended. This is Astro Twilight going into nautical. As you can see that the light on the horizon is getting more and more blue, and I couldn't set up correctly for actually seeing what was going on in the canyon between these two mountain ranges. So from Timpanogos Range on the left to the Cascade Range on the right, I have this funny gap that, didn't really work. But I did get a panorama of the Milky Way. And this was 2016, I think like March or April of 2016. So my very first year with my camera, very first opportunity to capture, and I could see that the Milky Way was there, and I was so proud of this, not realizing, how much better it can get. Not realizing how much more detail I can pull out, how much more I can do when it's not in Astro Twilight. So when Faster sent me this picture, I was like, oh my gosh, my heart was so excited for my first ever panorama. I showed this off at work where I'm like, this is what I did before I came to work, everybody. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. Look at that Milky Way. Not knowing that it could be so much better. But then Faster provided us another image that is terrific. And one thing I love about it is something that I'm learning as I've been researching Mexico. In fact, let's go over to this. Let's look at this Milky Way core from my position here. This position is all I've really ever known the Milky Way core to be. I haven't had a chance to go to the southern hemisphere because my plan for New Zealand got squashed by COVID. And so when I look at what the Milky Way is, I only know it from this perspective. But going to Mexico, like I will be in 2 weeks, you will be seeing a video of me out in Chichen Itza capturing a Milky Way in Mexico, preparing for what is going to be a 2024 workshop in Mexico at the Yucatan Peninsula with pyramids of the Aztec and the Mayan culture for Milky Way. Oh, it's going to be awesome. So if I choose it from map, as I change my position to this area, in fact, let me pull out so you can see what I'm looking at. This is the Yucatan Peninsula. And I am going to just tap right here where's Piste? Here's Merida. So coming in this way, roughly somewhere down here is Chichen Itza. And without finding it very easily and clearly, I am just going to tap a spot. And, actually, my Milky Way was changing as I was just changing my window, huh? What if I go up here? If I pull up, everywhere I tap. In fact, let me just show you. As I move this cursor up north, you watch that Milky Way move higher and higher off the horizon. The Montana Milky Way, the Idaho Milky Way, the Utah Provo Milky Way, the Southern Utah Milky Way. Southern California has an even better Milky Way core gap. And go to Joshua Tree, you can get an even stronger core higher up in the sky. As you go further down in the United States, even go into Texas, the Milky Way core changes in different ways, gets higher and higher and higher. And as I go into Mexico, into the Yucatan Peninsula, look at this. This is the lowest part of Texas, and then I've got this area in the Yucatan Peninsula. Let's just stay right here on this setting, and let's go back in time. Look at how that core comes off the horizon, coming off in the middle, and then going up and working its way over to the right. that core is not going to be blocked by any light pollution. It's up high. But then it also requires subjects that are going to be more interesting. See how my landscape is being lit up? The sun's out. And so this is what it'll be blocking around 8 a.m. Well, let's go over to Faster's area in Peru. In fact, let me go back in time to where it's more like 3 a.m., most likely somewhere nearby what Faster captured. And let's go down into Peru. And we have what Faster was seeing. Let's just guess this area. This area looks cool. I wasn't seeing the large Magellanic Cloud, so let's not go that far south. But you got his core on the left in this view. And that is what's happening in Faster's image. And it's just earlier at night or later at night? Earlier in the night. So this is Faster's shot. And let's go over to it. I'm not seeing the Magellanic Cloud, but I am seeing what he has. With Antares still up here, up on the top left, above his core, not southern hemisphere, below the core. But you've got Antares, and such a difference. What did I zoom in on? I wish the large Magellanic Cloud was showing up, but maybe he's really not that far south in Peru. I don't know exactly where in Peru Faster is. Go to Antarctica, he says, and Justin says, let's go for it. Before we come off of this, let's have some fun. So we go out and go to Antarctica and watch this core. Let's go forward in time. Actually, I better not. I just do this. So as we go, the hemisphere changes, and what ends up being totally vertical, if you went forward in time, you would see how it's going to completely swap on us, where like in the different month, it would be like this. Let's go forward, backward a little bit. Come on. Typical southern hemisphere, you see it like that. And it's that time of year that you see it, and it's just not this time of year. That's where you get it. But if I went all the way down to Antarctica, I get that southern... let's see, Antarctica is actually dark here. So if I was capturing from this spot, and I started... Let's go into the night. It's 3 p.m. 12. Okay, here's midnight. My core is totally where? Oh, east, directly east. There's my core at 2:30 a.m. So it comes, oh, that's interesting. Look at how Antares is going to scrape by the horizon. It's not even going to set. It's just going to keep scraping the horizon, going up higher, and then coming and setting on the right. Oh, I love that. Antares never sets at Antarctica. Wow, Antares, Antarctica. You want to go see Antares all day long and capture Aurora Fuki? That's the time. And if you go when it's completely dark, oh, brilliant. Another vote for a selfie. Awesome. Yeah, that's interesting. It would be harder to track. I'm sure that the rotation of the Earth is still going to be something you can work with in the Southern Hemisphere like you can, but how well would it handle the rotation down and up? I don't even know yet. Possibly no challenge whatsoever, but I have no clear idea. Not a clear idea. Oh, man, Antarctica. Okay, cool. We celebrated that. We've celebrated the locations and how they've changed as we had Faster showing us these cool images. So looking at Faster, he has some light bloom over here, and he has a light bloom at the other terminating end of his Milky Way arch. As you can see, there's villages and city lights all right here. And I didn't draw anything on his last one, but I want to point out how awesome his dust lanes are pulling out. They are great. He's really got, here's the core, and maybe I should do this one. So here's the core going up this way. I want a little bit more circular. There we go. So this core is coming up and continuing around that path, but then the dust lanes, how they're so fantastically visible coming up here, reaching up to the Aurora Fuki. I don't believe this is an astro-modified camera because I'm not seeing heavy on the red, but I'm definitely seeing evidence of stacking, if not a little tracking, but I'm not entirely certain. Let's double check what he says over here on our page when he submitted. So Faster says, no, it's just changing the image. Let me go to where Faster posted, see if he says anything about it. Nope, he just posted the image, it looks like. So he didn't give us any other settings. Faster, I don't know if you're hanging out with us right now, but if you have any settings you want to hook us up with, I'd love it. Ooh, Andrea Boyle, that's an interesting idea. She says right below here, actually no, the mention is coming from Justin Miller's reply to her point, Pano with zodiacal light. Zodiacal light could be challenging. That's usually towards the morning, but you can make it happen. But it's also more towards the north, zodiacal light. So maybe that's too much, but I like that, Andrea. I like that challenge. Let's put that into 2024 maybe. Force people to have a little bit more skill by then, a little more readiness to try and do something as challenging as that. Okay, so I'm reading off of the screen that you're not seeing right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit more visible for you when I come back for Chris's picture, but that way you all can participate in the text I'm seeing on the right. Okay, come on. Yeah, there we go. Now you can see the text that I'll be reading later for Chris's and Chris Woodruff's. All right, cool. Awesome. Okay, let's go back to Fasters. So loving the clarity he has on the core. I'm loving that he has everything popping off. Even though you've got a light bloom that's over here, that stuff isn't messing with anything. He is still getting something out of this scene. And unfortunately, it's so dim to really appreciate the lines that were created by this field. The vanishing point going out there, working well with this foreground. If there was only something out here like the large Magellanic Cloud showing up at that vanishing point, that would have been really cool. But this is a really neat shot by Faster, and it is terrific. Let me get rid of all of my graffiti off of his image. Brilliant. Love it. So this is Faster's second image, and it's really clear. I love the clarity on it, and it has a lot of what we see in the winter Milky Way showing up that we normally don't get to see with the core because we're not in the southern hemisphere like he is. So jealous of that shot. So then it takes me into Chris's, and I'm putting Chris's here for a reason. As I'm going to go into these other Chris shots together, one together, but let's celebrate what Chris Woodruff has put up here. And he says, this is captured date February 16th, 2023. It's a few miles north of Cambria, California. The foreground is just after sunset, so you can see how we got a blue hour after sunset capture. You can see some of the color in the water that gives it away. This is definitely around sunset. The clarity on something like these footprints down here, that would not be happening without a blue hour shot, and even in blue hour I'm not even certain how much that would pull out unless you really got a longer exposure, and his is not overly exposed, and it's just showing up nice and well. You got some highlights on the leaves that are showing a definite directional light coming in. So that sunset is great, lighting up this terrain and then blending it with his night shot. Let's see what else he says. I had to tweak the ocean reflection to get most of the yellow-orange out of it, so it was even more than it's looking like here. Nice. That's a lot of color correction. Really good work. He says there was a lot more light pollution from the right side of the image. I guess for this challenge I should have left it in. No, he's good. He got rid of that light pollution. That's fine, because I would want to see Andromeda Galaxy showing up right here. Love seeing that. So then let's go over, and he says, P.S. If you look in the center of the sky, you'll see the green comet to the left of the red star in the Hyades open cluster. Oh, really? Now, I don't know the Hyades open cluster just off the top of my head, so let's go ahead and look at our map here. In fact, let me change my location to come off of Antarctica and put myself, I don't know where Cambria necessarily is, but I'm just going to put myself in Central California, where I used to live in Monterey. I'm going to put myself there for that Milky Way. So then if I'm off of these settings, I can do a search. And he said it's the Hyades cluster. Hyades open cluster. And that is right there. So let me go forward in time or backwards. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see. So he said he captured it on the day that was February 16th. Let's change this back to February 16th so the moon's out of our way. And now I can recognize from Orion in his image. Actually, I should just do this and do that. The Hyades cluster is under Mars. Mars was pretty close at that point in the Pleiades. So we're looking at Mars. Let's see. Why is that changing? It could be Aldebaran and Mars that I'm looking at are the two orange stars. And so from Pleiades up here is Mars, and here's Aldebaran, and then here it is. Oh, yeah, there it is. Just to the left of Aldebaran. Right there is the comet. You can't see it very clearly. Let me see if I can zoom in even more if I do it this way. Pull in this image here, And zoom, zoom, zoom. Oh, yeah. Now you're seeing it. The green comet right there next to Aldebaran. Aldebaran, I don't know. That star, Aldebaran's really bright, and the other bright was Mars. So Pleiades, Mars, Aldebaran, and Comet. And I go over here, and this isn't showing me the comet on my screen here, but it's showing me the Hyades cluster, which is off of this Taurus constellation, which, I haven't remembered that or learned it. So thanks, Chris, for that. In fact, I should be showing you this screen so you can see it. So this is what I was zooming in on, the Hyades cluster. Lots of stars right there, Aldebaran, and then the comet was just off to the left of that. And so that looks really cool right here. Awesome. So then Chris says you can see that comet. And this is a fantastic winter Milky Way. Once again, Chris has pulled out the clarity with his stacking and his star tracking. He's got crazy color coming off of the Orion constellation. You got the Rosette Nebula right here. And then all the color of the stars that, man, I still haven't put to memory. I need to create that tip sheet so that I can remind myself what those are. In fact, I'm working on those tip sheets right now. So I just barely created I created a video that's pushing people towards the 10 things to do before Milky Way, but I'm creating that Winter Milky one next because I really want that before Winter Milky Way is over. So what do I love about this image? When you look at what's working, let me bring up my color so I can change it. He has, there's no core, so instead of having a core, we just draw these circles. Oh, you're just not that, I guess, huh? All right. Then I'm going to go and bring this in. The core doesn't exist, but you have a Milky Way that arches through the image here. And that Milky Way stays pretty consistent in size all the way throughout the image. And he got it to a point that was really high on the horizon, maybe too high when it comes to wanting to get a little bit more space. He doesn't have Pollux in view, or making Pollux gives him some headroom. But as far as any distortion on his Milky Way panorama, he had none. So he had enough headroom above the arch to make it work. It didn't look weird, but it is a little nestled in up here where he has a lot of negative space right below. But as you can see with the light bloom that's happening right here, the core any lower would put the Orion constellation inside that light bloom, and then you'd lose the detail and data. And so I'm sure that's what Chris was prioritizing. Woodruff says, in my 2 gig image, it's very clear, LOL. Probably oversaturated the color and processing. So you feel like you've oversaturated some of the reds? It's not terrible, though. Chris Whiting says 2048 on the long edge takes away a lot of detail. Talking about the resolution on the long edge, yeah, I can see what you're saying. Bringing it down to 2048. As I'm looking at the rest of his image and what works really well, when you have a foreground that you're going to carry into a panorama that has a flat horizon. This is a completely flat horizon with really a little bit of organic shape change up here. I want to make this a little cleaner. Go back to my pencil there. So we have a very flat horizon. Then we have some organic shapes coming up on one side. That's it. So we have pretty much nothing going on in this third right there. There's just nothing extra going on. So you try and bring in a foreground below that will be eye-catching. And doing the sunset was brilliant for it. As I look at his foreground rock here, he has an interest that's nicely center weighted that has similar shapes as they go up. You have this mirrored shape right there that helps carry, symmetry as well as drawing the eye both up into this rock shape that then carries us up into the top part of this core, and then we start enjoying what we see in the color. The color really does draw our eye almost instantly, and then as we kind of try to take in the rest of the foreground, we feature this in the center and work our way up. There's nothing distracting in the foreground. He doesn't have any of this extra kind of debris. I call it debris just because it doesn't have a definition that you can really feature. It is just brush, just stuff sticking up. It has almost, I call it a texture, which is really all it really is a texture and color at the bottom of the image that gets mirrored by highlighted rocks that get color, and this kind of smoother rock shape here versus what is more cliff and terrain all the way going back. They all have different strokes of lines and color changes, where this is nice and uniform with just a little bit of plant right there that's showing up. And then the contrast between these colors right here of this rock and then the sand is great. It doesn't have too much monotone, uniform color, all just beach and sky and water. It's not just three things. We actually do have a few varied hues here between this area and this area, this area, this area, this area, this area. They all have different hues underneath, which makes it interesting, which goes into the sea stack rocks that have the sea foam that's very vibrant and bright, drawing the eyes, going off to the horizon, and then carrying you up on that light bloom that's off in the horizon. Now, Chris, I'm thinking, does this glow this sharply over here because of your sunset? Or is there land that continues out beyond this that is giving some light bloom off in that distance? That we just don't see the land on the horizon of sea, but we see the light bloom. So I'm liking that. It's very strong, and the winter Milky Way is great as always. His star reduction is on point. The one that is consistent with Chris's captures, you pretty much can look at this and go, oh, that's a Chris Woodruff picture. I'm trying to recognize it, trying to recognize his post-processing the same way I'd recognize Justin Miller's. So let's go into Chris Whiting's capture. I love these two examples. One has an astro twilight Milky Way. I really like it a lot. In fact, I think you talk about it. So let's go over here. Let's close this. And here we go, Chris Whiting. So on this image, he says, yeah, that was this one. He says, captured on February 26, 2023. It's a half hour after Astro Dark ended. Oh, interesting. So which way do you mean? Going into the morning, right? So this is nautical. You're saying, Chris Whiting, that this is nautical twilight, right? So this would be going, it's a sunset. That's what the light is. Okay, gotcha. That is nautical twilight, even more light that's washing out the Milky Way core, and you still pulled back quite a bit of detail. He says he stacked 7 panels. It's a 24 millimeter at f2, and it's 10 seconds, ISO 3200, 5 shots per panel because he's running out of time. He's like, bam, 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 bam. He had 2 LED light panels at 2500 Kelvin, so they're putting a nice warm color on the left and right, and the right side bounced off of rock. So the right side light, he had to bounce off a rock to go up into here, and this one was just shining directly on the rocks. If you understand what I'm talking about, oh, sunrise. So it is more into nautical twilight. Sweet. Thanks, Chris. So when you're looking at your low-level lighting and you have a light that's far enough away that can light up everything, shining directly at it works terrifically. But if you have to go in a spot where you need to bring down the brightness, the higher contrast, the highlights are too much, you will typically turn the light away from the rocks that you're trying to light and bounce them off another rock to get some light on there without blowing it up too crazy. Because, your eyes would be drawn to this too much if this was a nice hot white light versus what was happening over here. This is also uniform, also comfortable. It's drawing the contours of the rocks, the textures of the rocks out from the darkness, but it's not making you feel like some car headlights have been whipped past this. If he had these white highlights over here, it would seem almost like a mistake. And so having it bounce off the rock not only makes it more of a subtle light, but it also gave it color on the light that's a little bit different. He said they're both 2500 Kelvin? Yeah, 2500 Kelvin. So they're both the same color temperature, but with the bounce off the rock, it gave a little bit more of an orange cast on this side. But then this side is getting everything. And one thing you'll find out if you go do low-level lighting that you will hate and maybe deal with is that no matter what, there is going to be a hot spot. So these rocks right here, up here, they're experiencing the hot spot. And the hot spot is brighter than these rocks up here in the distance, and a little bright there in here, but then these rocks start to have a different color. So where it continues on throughout is nice and comfortable, where it has these highlights where the closer rocks will get blown up the most, and you can't do anything about it except maybe burn back in post. Dodge where you need to make it brighter, and burn to make it darker in post if you feel like you have to. Now, is it required? No, not hardly. If you were to have a highlight that was making just this whole shape right there just crazy, and then it got minimized as it went through, then maybe you might bring back this section of it where it's overly highlighted. But there isn't that in Chris's shot. He doesn't have an ultra bright highlight. Classic Aaron King. I'm going to do this, and I hope I can do it fast because I know I can do it. Come on. There is a Bistai time lapse that I want to pull up, and I know I can do it. Come on, Aaron, you can do it. Is this one? No, this is just a single image. And there's Aaron King talking. There's Alan Wallace and I talking. Come on. Come on. You know you can do this. There is a Milky Way Wednesday from last year where I have yes, Alien Throne. You will see it here in this time lapse. Why did you refuse to open up in the window I want? Okay, minimize that. Grab it. Here we go. So here's the highlight. You're going to see in the very beginning of this time lapse where looks like I can pull this over slightly. Watch the background. See the background right here? I first start out with a crazy blown out spire, and I didn't know how much this was blown out until we went back and looked at the camera, and everyone said, hey, that part's just too blown out, so putting the light there was too much. So I moved it to the far back over here. This is being blown out. It's fine. It's out of the composition's way, and it made more uniform light, but then they felt like the shadow down here wasn't that good. So then I moved the light to this spot right here. You can see me standing there. And at that spot, I was able to minimize the highlight on these rocks, but this rock got the massive highlight burn. Crazy burn, a little too much, but because our composition was really from here over, it wasn't a bad problem. Everyone was okay because our point was seeing Alien Throne and seeing the rocks down below it. So now that you see the rocks down below, watch what's happening on the other shot. See how shadowy that is? So putting your low-level light all over the place can make big differences to what's going on and what's showing up and what looks good in your final shot. And then we continue this time lapse, and I just kept the light there. So despite the fact that there's some hot zones in this spot off camera, our main areas received the light we wanted, and nothing was too bright, but this rock was definitely brighter than this rock, the Alien Throne rock. So you had to work with that in post. You had to work with that and deal with it. So when you're working with low-level lighting, you'll find yourself fighting that all the time. So looking at this shot, all the Joshua Tree rocks have risk, almost all of them have a risk of a car pulling up and lighting them because the roads are so close to a lot of these. If I'm not mistaken, this is an area near School Rock. Maybe it's not, but I think it is. And this area right here gets some really good looking rocks and really nice shapes, and they having them show up where you get a kiss of light on the left and some shadows on the right is where you want it. And putting both lights out there to make sure these rocks weren't just sitting in shadow is fantastic, Chris. I love it. And as you're working with your foreground, you're thinking, okay, I've got a Milky Way core, and then my other parts of the Milky Way continuing on. And I'm trying to build up a panorama that's strong. He waited long enough where the pano started to have an arch. It's not like Neil Zingel's one right here where it's totally flat. You got this long parallel Milky Way pano arch. He was able to make it get an arch, but he had to go into the morning time to make this work. One thing that was really strong is that he got this tall feature here to kind of bookend the core, and then these gave space for the core to breathe, and then gave us some really cool dynamic up and down rocks, all different heights, all going across, and I just adore it. I just love it. And then coming back down here, every rock that got lit becomes of interest and becomes positive space where this is negative, this is negative, this is negative, this is negative, and then inside here has a thin, shallow negative space because of the gradient of light changing the color, making it interesting, but that is negative space right there. So loving this shot from Chris Whiting. It's terrific, but he also gave us another one. This is at a rock, arch rock, that is challenging because you see this rock face right here and this rock face right there. On his far left and far right, you can see how you're next to the rock. You're standing with your back to it. In fact, at this position, sitting right here, Alan dropped his new camera and broke a lens. Broke parts off of it, but the lens still worked. And I was standing somewhere over here or right here. I think I was in this space right there, capturing this way. And just trying to get out of Alan's way, really. I ended up just turning my camera off so I didn't ruin his few shots because we had clouds coming into the frame. And so I wanted to make sure Alan, coming from the UK, got a great Joshua Tree shot because I can always go back. One thing that's terrific about Arch Rock is that this is the side of the sky out here, the east side, without the light pollution of Coachella Valley and Palm Springs. You start to see Coachella Valley and Yucca Valley down there being lit underneath the core, but not enough to ruin it. And Chris got some great clarity on the dust lanes. His Antares, this is not a tracked shot, and yet he pulled in a lot of detail. Unless you say that it was. Let me find out. This other capture that you have, it's a stacked 7 panel with it's a stacked panel with 7 panels, 24 millimeter, 20 images each panel, so it's not stacked, or it's not tracked, I mean. And he's stacked all of those together to get that kind of detail at f2, 10 seconds, ISO 3200, on a Sony a7 III using the Rokinon 24 millimeter it was out at f2, but it was a 1.8 24 millimeter. So looking at this with 3200 ISO, 3200 ISO is very low, but stacking those images has helped bring up his core detail and made it turn out really nice. I never shoot Chris at 3200 when I'm capturing my sky. So you did a fantastic job making it work. Now he has an ISO invariant camera, and so he can work with it the same way on my Canon. If I shoot at 6400, he can make it show up. So while he captured at 3200, and if he looked at the back of his screen, it might be a little low on the exposure, in post he was able to pull out the same exposure that I would have, most likely up to 8000. And I am getting a phone call, but it's spam, so say goodbye to that. So I thought this was on Do Not Disturb. Boom, boom, boom. Do not disturb. No more phone calls from spam. So looking at this shot, this is a challenge. There is a position you can be over here where you can then look through the arch and get some view, but it's tight. It's crazy. You can get the arch to come up a little bit more, or you can be up here at this height where you can then get a great panorama view, and this becomes just an interesting knobby shape. And I love how his light is obviously over here, lighting up this way, and then another light off to the left doing the same thing. And you can see without the rock bouncing off of, he has the same color temperature on both sides. The hot zones are receiving the same color temperature, and you don't get anything too hot, and it actually lights up. And now with this light over here, he's drawn a shadow right there. And he's able to mitigate that shadow with this light so that it reached over as far as it could, and we have some light on the inside of that shadow to make definition of the rock. And it's not distracting, it's not ruining anything whatsoever. So this is an interesting rock, interesting place to work with, to get that panorama and to work with that sky. He even has some nice air glow happening over here. Really like this image. It's a February panorama, and it turned out great. Did you say what time this one was? He didn't mention the time specifically because I think this was full darkness. And then he went back to this location probably that same night, 26th, and captured it more towards sunrise. So he captured here first and then moved out over here, which is easily possible in this location. So love this image, Chris. Whiting, fantastic. Let's go over here to Justin Miller's capture. Like I said, I can start to recognize Justin Miller's post-processing, the way that he does it, the way that Chris Woodruff captures, and Chris Whiting has much more of a post-processing similar to my own. There's a heavy saturation of colors. There's a heavy crunch of the blacks going into the blues, and it's just very dynamic and strong. Justin Miller has a strong color palette in his skies. He's tracking, so he's pulling out some highlights over here. Now, I don't know if this is Aurora again, Chris, or Justin, but fantastic looking at that. He's got some of his Milky Way core up, or Milky Way band cut off a little bit at the pano, but you can see he captured these dunes leading down into the lake with all the different city lights, all at a blue hour, it looks like, because you got lights turned on back here, so it must be dark enough for lights to turn on, but all that detail and data is coming in here on the foreground. You got some lower focus, softer focus here, but sharper there. So everything's at infinity, and it's looking pretty great. If you had something of interest that he really wanted to draw your eye to, he would have made sure that this section right here was in focus. But that's not where he wants your eye. He wants your eye looking out. He wants you seeing the water, the lights. The lights of this city fits the parameters of the contest very well, and it's neat how they really don't blow up too much. Even with the extra clouds right here, they're not pulling too much of the light up into them. So he's able to make this work really fantastically, and he's got a city over here that's also giving some light. So he has a sky capture and a foreground capture, and he has a great story that I'm going to share over here. Let me read it as you're looking at this picture. Snow reflects light. It's great. Yeah, Chris Whiting is correct. I don't think it was Aurora, but it was super red, though. Yeah, exactly, it was. So then, you know what? Let me mention real quick. Chris Whiting says this. Let me pull this up. He's talking about his images. He's like, +1 in post, 20. It's only +1 up in exposure in post, 27 asterisks and 25 miles per hour. So you had that much wind, 27 degrees and 25 miles per hour. That's terrible, man. He had third light was needed actually. Chris Woodruff says he loves that. And okay, so I got all of Chris Whiting's Orange Glow's artistic license added in post. Oh, cool. So we got this image, which is the Orange Glow right here. I'm imagining he's talking about. Let me get rid of those and pull back over to this. We're about done with tonight's Milky Way Wednesday. I just want to end it here shortly. I think he means this Orange Glow was added in post. The Orange Glow here, I don't see too much. So I think he means this one that was artistically added on the horizon, which I like it. That gradient is fantastic, and it was a good idea, a good decision. Love it. Cool. So let's go back over here to Justin Miller's as I read this. He says, the first time visiting a Bortle 2 Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. I knew I wanted to get the full arch panel from the top of the dune climb, which is a giant wall of sand about 300 feet up. With the flat horizon, it should be pretty easy to blend with the tracked panel. So he would get up to. You're missing a word there, Justin, and I'm going to try and guess it. I would have liked to get up to some pretty good moonshots, or no. I would up. Oh man, what's he saying? I would up to get some pretty moonshots of our tent, and I noticed my only wide-angle lens was my only astro lens. Oh my gosh. Okay. I've been struggling on that sentence so much I missed the fun part of it. So he's up to trying to get some pretty moonshots of the tent plus everything, and he knows his only wide-angle lens, his only astro lens, was broken on focus, manual focus, and autofocus. It was completely stuck in autofocus. So this forced him to use his kit 50mm that he has never used for astro, but he loves using it now. So this was a 50 right here. So he really would have liked to get that wide angle with the really cool 300 feet up sand dune, but because he had to change to a 50mm telephoto, he got stuck using that, and he changed his composition entirely last minute, but he actually loves using it now. My 50mm lens is trash. I can't get focused with it very well. I hate the 50mm Nifty 50 for Canon when it comes to astro, but it's great for my kids, and I don't love using for astro, but he still loves his. His is solid on getting the focus. Luckily, he had just been learning about multi-row panos, and this was his only option, so he probably did 3 rows here, right? Yeah, 3 rows of 3 hours, 15 photos per row. Oh my gosh. So 15 across, and then 15 across to get this shot. 3 rows, 15 rows per row, 15 photos per row for the sky, and then he did 1 row for the foreground, he thinks. So only that, but then he did 15. So that's like a giga panel up there for the sky. That's amazing. And he tracked that as well. So you're dealing with a lot of time here. That's why it took him 3 hours. The image ended up taking 3 days to edit because the file was 8 gigs. Yeah, giga panel. Oh my gosh, that's huge. New member in the guild, Thomas Tarner. Hey, welcome in. That shot turned out great, he says. And this was my only option. No, I needed 1 more up top, but I ran out of time because of twilight. Yeah. So when you cropped off the top of the band, you wanted another row, but you were running out of time. This is a very high arch, so I can see how close it was getting to twilight. Even Andromeda was showing up for a February shot. So yeah, unfortunately, Justin had to end it early. But man, that sucks that your gear fell apart at the last second. That is terrible news. Happens all the time. In fact, this camera right here, its autofocus has stopped working for me. Just all of a sudden happened, and I can't autofocus my Milky Way Wednesdays anymore. And I try to focus it, but I think I'm a little soft right now. Does anyone have the location for Alien Throne? Tim Farmer asks. You guys have the information down below? Sure, but otherwise, Tim, send me an email, and I'll give you the exact location. Viet Win says, hey, Aaron, I'm late. No worries. I'm almost late to ending, so you're going to see plenty of stuff still, Viet. Or Win. Win's going to see this. So, Justin Miller shot. Love it. I'm not going to draw anything more on it, as I just have enjoyed the fact that he actually got a... He actually was able to pull out... Come on, come off of the... You double tap this and eraser goes on, but when I double tap to come back, it never cooperates. So that right there, Andromeda Galaxy popping up, means that's a very late summertime kind of Milky Way, something you get more in March, and he was able to nail it. He was there late enough that he got it. I love that. So then let's go to our final image to share. Oh, this was the final image, wasn't it? Haha, it was the final image. Great. So now I get to pick the winner. And the winner of this month's photo. So I said something about Chris's. I put it next to Faster because Faster's in the running for the top. Chris is running for the top. And then the other Chris, I love this image even more than I love this one. Why? The core is even better in this one. The foreground is more close and interesting in many ways. But this image overall has it for me. It has an emotional reaction of a solid edge-to-edge, frame-to-frame capture that is turning out fantastic. And then Chris Woodruff's picture does definitely jump right away, being a winter Milky Way, the clarity on it, working with the blend of the sunset, beach, shore. It's fantastic. And then Faster's image. I wish I had a little bit more of the foreground on Faster's image to give him a definite victory, because the foreground could use a little bit more clarity to sit there with the night sky. And he's getting like 80 points for the sky, and then this is like running into 90 points total, and then his image over here is hitting at 90 points total. So it's like, does Faster take enough with this foreground down here? So it's like, these are all fictional numbers. These are just off the top of my head. None of them have any metric for how I grade. Interesting. It's wanting me to just get rid of his image and not get rid of my drawing. So I'll just get rid of that this way. So then I look at these images and I pick my absolute favorite. This is a tough one. As I look at these three, there's a brilliant sky that I hardly ever see that has a great clarity on it. There's a brilliant Milky Way, winter Milky Way with a great foreground that isn't perfect, but I love it. And then there's just something right here that has a soft color, a gradient of colors going back and forth, that if I was thinking about a marketing with some copy up here, writing text, I mean, you could really see how this would work with a marketing image showing off Joshua Tree. So these are my top three for this month. And the winner for the February Milky Way. Dang it, Faster, I want to give it to you because of your great sky, but you're going to have to come back with more great sky. The foreground's got to come into play, so it's between the Chris's. It's the battle of the two Chris's, Chris Woodruff and Chris Whiting. And the overall, it's so tough. It's so tough because that Chris Woodruff picture is so good, and Chris Whiting has me emotionally. He has the emotional victory, and Chris Woodruff has the execution victory. Give it to Chris. Ryan's helping me out. Give it to Chris. He's right. Give it to Chris. Christian or Christopher Woodruff. I'm pretty sure it's Christopher Whiting as well, unless Chris, you don't have Christopher as your full name. Man, these are strong. Even Chris Woodruff is putting in a vote. Yeah, Chris wins. Yeah. The execution from top to bottom is too solid to have it take away from an emotional connection that I have here with Chris Whiting's image. It's so fantastic. I love the color. I love the gradient that goes down into this point. The rocks are terrific. The work here, there's some execution things that can be even stronger and make it even better. And when I look at something that has everything going for it, it is definitely Chris Woodruff's last edition. Up until Chris Woodruff's edition, there was going to be a Chris Whiting victory. But Chris Whiting has awesome pictures and awesome pictures coming up. So there's some future opportunity for me to have Chris Whiting have a Photog Adventures Aaron King Carson Lumi Loop. So as I told people in another video, I've got a box of these Lumi Loops. These are my favorite Lumi Loops. They are... I'm dropping water bottles. I want to get one I've already opened. This one I've already opened. Okay, cool. So inside this box is a brand new Carson Lumi Loop, and I have space on the Carson Lumi Loop to etch in a Photog Adventures logo, as well as my signature and your name for the month that you won. This will be your trophy. And so the winner for December was Justin Miller. The winner for January was Matej. And the winner for February is Quiz. I have a hard time with the Woodruff afterwards. Chris Woodruff. And so I will be creating this for your trophy and sending these off to you guys, as well as Justin Miller's getting the first treatment of a week-long, praise of his image and how cool it is through all of my social media. That hasn't started yet because I haven't been home for a solid week. But I'm home now. So starting on Monday, I'll be celebrating Justin Miller's. Then the following Monday, celebrating Matej. Then the following Monday after my 7-day workshop, I will be doing a week of Chris Woodruff's picture. So fantastic capture. Absolutely love it. It definitely deserves a Photog favorite. And it's taken February's throne. March. I really liked everyone's suggestion. I think the one that wins for me is the reflection. I love the idea of a panorama with a reflection. Now, because that won't be possible for everyone, even though you could use the reflective surface of your iPhone. You simply just go and put your iPhone down and get your reflection coming off of this. You can put it close to your camera right in front and then get that reflection off of there. You can bring a mirror. You can get a reflection any way that you can if you don't have a water subject. But there will be a March challenge for panorama plus reflection or selfie. That way, if you can't get a reflection, you get a selfie. I'd love to see you in there any way that you would like that selfie to be. There is no requirement for how you create the selfie and how you use it. It will be totally fine, however you choose. So awesome. Thank you so much. How late did I go? Realistically, that's not late for Aaron King. 8:05 is practically on time. So welcome everybody who's come and hung out with me for Milky Way Wednesday today. Thank you so much for hanging out. I have a lot of work to get out during the next 2 weeks that I'm still here in studio. So look at the channel. Keep checking back for videos. Some of these will be videos of Milky Way Wednesday lessons of the past that you're going to get the video that gives just that straight tip about the best part of the tip. So you saw a 1-hour video that I had 2 great tips. I'm going to have 2 great videos that teach those tips isolated and fast. And I'll be doing that. Tim Farmer, yeah, I just heard I'm going to probably have an R8 to play with at Nightscapers. Canon rocks, LOL. Yes, he's going to have an R8 to play with. I'm going to have an Astro Modified R6 that I'll be playing with and taking with me soon. I just got to go over there and hang out with my friend Clarence Spencer and grab it from him. I can't wait. So if you guys are thinking about getting your Astro Modified camera still, go to spencerscameras.com. And if you're thinking about getting a Milky Way out in March, you can still do your final chance at a winter Milky Way. Capture that winter Milky Way in the west and wait for the summer Milky Way Panorama to happen in the east. And when March is one of my favorite times to capture the really great height of the arch of the Milky Way Panorama over a subject where it's not going to be too high in the sky, to be out of frame, and have too much negative space, and it can work with many subjects. So make sure you get that reflection or that you get that selfie. That'll be terrific. And I'll be putting in the link in the next, all my videos throughout March will have the link in them. So if you see any newly posted Milky Way Wednesdays live or any new videos, you will see in the description our March photo challenge, the rules about them, and the link to that Google Photos page that is going to exist here shortly. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me. Thanks for coming as always. I'm Aaron King with Photog Adventures. Learning Milky Way photography, teaching it, sharing the adventure is my favorite thing to do. So come back every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. and join me here and hang out. And hopefully we'll have some better weather so I can have some more submissions from more of you as we go forward. If you're in my Milky Way Photography Primer class, I'm going to have an email out to you here shortly, as well as a primer that gets you ready for March. So look for those emails today and tomorrow. Tonight I won't have that video out for the primer, but you will have the video out reminding you about the course content, so check that out. Andrew Boyle says, thanks Aaron, I'm getting a second R6 body next week to get modified for Nightscaper. Ooh, yes, he's getting ready for May. Dave says, thanks, Aaron. Everyone have a great night. Clear skies. Clear skies to you, Dave. Chris Woodruff says, thanks, Aaron. Congrats, Woodruff, on winning. You dethroned Chris from my favorite, even though I really wanted to give it to both of you, but I know Chris Whiting is going to have some amazing images coming forward, so he's going to win this probably within the next 2 months. So I can't wait to see what he can pull out. Justin Miller says, I'm hoping to have the Benro Polaris. That's that really awesome automatic one that's going to use your phone app and do a tracking for you, tell a star to follow, and it stays on that sky for you. It's quite terrific when the Benro Polaris works. So he's hoping to have that. Anyone looking for one? Oh, he's looking to sell some RVs. So anyone looking to buy an RV, check it out. There was someone who was selling a part. Oh yeah, Rob Ryan wanted to sell his Star Tracker. He has an Ioptron. Oh, a Skywatch Star Adventure or an Ioptron. Let me double check my text. If anyone's looking for some more gear, Rob is looking to sell his, and it's going to be a Skyguider Pro, an Ioptron Skyguider Pro, and he's looking to do $300 plus shipping, but it does come with a waterproof Pelican case. So Pelican case are fantastic. It's waterproof. You got all the gear inside there. It's an Skyguider Pro with the full package that is Ioptron Skyguider Pro. If you're looking to get that gear, message me at aaron@photogadventures.com, and I'll put you in connection with Rob Ryan. He's a friend of mine, so I'm happy to hook him up with selling some gear. And those of you in the guild, we'll see you over there. I have not been active in the guild for the last month, and so I will repent and get in there and hang out with you more. Can't wait to see your stuff. Chris Woodruff, can we let folks know about the gear in the guild? Yes, you can. Go ahead and put your gear in there if you have anything you want to sell in the guild, and I will make sure next Milky Way Wednesday to bring up anything that's in the guild that people want to sell stuff. Go for it. You guys can sell it and make 100% of your profits of anyone in the guild that wants to buy it off you. I'm not going to get involved, so go for it. Enjoy. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next Wednesday unless you join me on Monday night for the Nightscaper pre-event, and I'll see you here live. And if you have any questions, hit me up with an email anytime. All right. Talk to you later, and goodbye. Oh, there's the button. Click.